Christian Dior. Christian Dior was a modern Frenchman who changed the way women looked in 1947 with his new look. He didn't invent the phrase himself, and he did not want to start a new trend or a new era of clothing when he started designing. Designer Christian Dior just wanted that the woman looked pretty again. In his opinion, they were fed up with the uniforms and unadored clothing during World War II. The thick fabric and the brownish colors without any form in them drove him crazy during this time. Dior was born in the French seaside town of Granville in 1905. His early childhood memories were of his mother and her friends and their elegant Edwardian clothing. Skirts that reached to the floor, huge hats that framed the face, sashes that defined tiny waists. He also helped his mother making dresses. Dior's family was wealthy. They were in the fertilizer business, and his parents expected him to do something useful too. So, Dior began studying political science as a young man, and for that reason, he flew from Paris to New York. In New York, he saw more fashion than he ever dreamed of. And with a new idea in his mind, he traveled back to Paris. After a while, his interest switched to music. He dropped off from the political science school. This was Paris of the 1920s, and he was surrounded by creative people who threw many parties. Dior was shy, but he attended these parties, especially those with a fancy dress or costume required. His love for beautiful clothing was becoming apparent, as well as his desire to surround himself with artistic friends, wiser than the middle-class people his parents would have preferred. As he grew older, Dior was working as a fashion illustrator. Then he got hired by the famous fashion designer Robert Piguet, and after he and Piguet discovered a spa that was called Christian Dior, designer Christian Dior was born. All the while, the quiet Frenchman was observing life around him and not liking what he saw. Dior found women's clothing in World War II to be incredibly ugly: shoulder pads, knee-length skirts, clunky platform shoes. These clothes, he felt, did not enhance the female figure. Once again, his mind returned to his mother and her friends at the seaside town of his childhood. He had one idea in his mind: he wanted to bring back the feminine elegance. After the war, Dior designed for Lucien Lelong for 4 years. Then he could open his own couture house. At last he could dress women as he wanted, in a modern interpretation of Edwardian fashion. Dior's very full skirts used as much as 20 yards of fabric each. They cascaded down to the calf, revealing just a peak of alluring ankle. Hips were actually padded to make the waist look smaller. Jackets were fitted and flared out with stylish peplums. Though Coco Chanel decried the artificiality of Dior's design and the uncomfortable foundation garments that had been worn underneath, women paradoxically felt they were being freed from the uncomfortable clothing of World War II. And so the new look was born. For 10 years, until his death in 1957, Dior was a fashion king. Each year he introduced a new line: Zigzag, Talib and Cupola, and though his signature look expanded to include elements of menswear, straight skirts and English tweeds, even unfitted dresses, and empire waist, the Dior look never lost its essential femininity and glamour. His dream was to save women from nature. In October he traveled to Italy, to Montecatini, where he died at the age of 52. The cause of it was a heart attack after he choked on a fishbone. Yves Saint Laurent took the business over, and Christian Dior is still really famous today.